Let's talk about the fight. First round, number one, me and my brother shout out. Hey, no free shout outs to Cody Compton, but all free shout outs because he's a boy. We've obviously armchair QB'd this whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why didn't you let him up? Let's talk about the first round. Did you ever feel in trouble when he had your back? Like when you were, because you did a great job controlling the wrist, but were you ever, there was times where I was getting a little nervous. I was like, oh shit, especially when you picked him up and slammed him down. It didn't seem like it got him off of you. Were you ever feeling a little nervous about that?
So I wasn't, because I really feel comfortable when someone has my back that they're not going to choke me. I can shrug my shoulders and I don't have the longest neck, and it's like
built like a pit. Yeah.
You know, so it's like I'm not that easy to choke for the most part. And then when I get hit, and when I get wrist control and I get a one-on-one, or I get my two hands on his one wrist, which is what I did.
Yeah.
You know, I ate a couple shots because he had the one arm free, but for the most part, I knew I wasn't letting that bad dog go. And that's what I preached to all the young guys who are out there grappling. It's like, you get that one wrist, A, you're going to get out, and B, he can't choke you. So I held it and I had that sucker for like a full minute, I think. I mean, my forearms are sore as heck, and it's not from anything else besides probably holding that sucker for dear life. And then I usually am able to do exactly what I did. And he is literally the best grappler in the lightweight division, maybe one of the best grapplers on the planet. Most submission wins in the UFC, most submission wins in UFC history. And I didn't really feel in danger, and I was able to reverse it by keeping the 2-on-1, going over my head and spinning inside of his triangle that he had around my body. He had long legs, so he made a figure four. He made a figure four around my body because his legs were so long, which is not an easy position. He's squeezing the heck out of you.
Yes.
But once you start getting sweaty, by that time we were sweaty, slammed him. It kind of loosened up a little bit. Then we kind of sat there a second. He threw a couple punches, a couple elbows, but I was kind of just buying my time waiting to explode, and I exploded and then got on top.
Yeah, and then you put on a little bit of a show. I thought they were going to stop the fight at one point. I thought, man, dude, I'm telling you, we were on our feet screaming, dude.
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to end up stopping the fight at that time.
And that's where I go back and forth, because I think if I would have just backed off and said, get up, maybe I could have knocked him out. But then again, I get a lot of finishes when I'm on top of a guy, just ground and pounding, you know, grounding and pounding him. I have pretty good. He's just long. He's got those really long legs. So he was trying to keep me at bay. Threw a couple kicks, came back in. You know, I'm trying to. You're aiming for the temple, the side of the head, hit the ear, jaw. Obviously, landed some good ground and pound strikes. Couple elbows, cut him open. So I think it was a 50-50 thing. If you look at it and you think, man, woulda, shoulda, coulda, I probably should have just stood him up. We had about 1:15 left. I maybe could have finished him on the feet. But then again, you know, my intuition says if I got a guy hurt on his back, I'm going to be able to finish him on the ground. And I've done it numerous times in the past. So I don't say that was a bad decision. I think it was a decision that maybe could have yielded a knockout or a finish, but I also could have very easily just finished him on the ground as well, but I didn't.
When when Rogan and those guys talk about going back to your feet, like what is the benefit of that other than being on your feet and being like Mike's better on his feet, stuff like that? Like, is there an extra benefit, like an added benefit? Is it that he's dazed and he's shaken up and you're like making him stand up and he's going to have to fight without all that?
Yeah. So, I mean, conventional wisdom, and every fight's a little bit different. Every scenario is different depending on my attributes and his attributes. But conventional wisdom would say, okay, he just got dropped. I dropped him with the left hook, hit him a couple times. He's on the ground. He's kind of like dazed. I saw the way he was looking at me, kind of was looking at me like a deer in the headlights. So to me, I say I'm going in for the kill. I'm going to knock him out on the ground. But I also could have just backed off, said, come up. He would have stood up, probably would have been a little bit wobbly. And if I landed a couple shots, my power punches on the feet were going to be more effective than the power punches on the bottom. But I also had the film study that said he'd been finished on the ground before. And if Paul Felder can finish him on the floor or other guys can finish him on the floor, I could definitely finish him on the floor. So I think that's where I thought, okay, I can finish him on the ground. Or if I don't, I go back to my stool, confidence is sky high, he starts to wilt. And that's where I thought we were, and that's pretty much where we were, but he just, landed something in the second round and fighted him.
Yeah, and then at the end of the first, obviously, you went back in at the last like 5 seconds, tried getting back in there. But is there a thought too, like, fuck, I should have backed up and stood up?
Not in the fight there wasn't, but now looking back at it, but that's the unfortunate thing about this too. You can always, after you lose.
Oh, 100%.
After you lose,
we all know what you should have done.
We could have done this and maybe it would have been different, or I could have done that and maybe it would have been different. So the woulda, shoulda, couldas is such a tough game to play. And I try not to play it too much anymore because I trust myself. I mean, like I said, if I didn't, I knew I did everything that I possibly could to be successful that night.
Yeah.
To have no regrets. And then I also know that I trust myself to be in the fire. I trust myself, like, you know, if say he doesn't finish me with that flurry and I'm like hurt or whatnot, I trust myself. I know myself to go into autopilot. I don't get finished, and I would have been able to fight for 20 more minutes and I would have won the fight. I truly believe that. But, you know, the fight happened how it happened. But I don't know. I trust myself to make the decisions.
Right, to make those
decisions
in the heat of the moment. Yeah.
And, you know, so I wouldn't say that I made a bad decision. I think I made a decision. And I think, you know, now we get to, you know, play woulda, shoulda, coulda if we want to.
For sure.
You know, and I don't say that like we should or shouldn't. I mean, it's all.
I'm curious what's going on. Yeah, I'm just curious what's going on in your mind, like as the stuff plays out. Because, you know, I'm thinking in times where I should have made a different decision. You know, I'll sit on the bench or something and be like, I should have done this. Like next time I'll get to see it. Obviously, we get more opportunities to see it again. But like, I'm just curious of the athlete in you. Like when you get to the end of that first round, you're like, I should have just stood this dude up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're thinking I'm gonna whoop his ass in the second round. Everyone's excited going into that second round.
No matter what. I mean, there was 2 10-8s on the scorecard and 1 10-9 on the scorecard.
Right.
So two of those judges thought I beat him bad enough to give me a 10
for sure.
So in that position, when you get done with the first round, I'm going back to the stool, back to the corner, you know, confidence high. It's similar to if you mess up on the first down, you're not thinking about the first down, going to the second down, third down. You finish the drive, maybe you go back to the bench. Then you think about what I could have done differently. Like for me, that's more after the fight. Now it's like, whereas when I went back to the stool, I'm just listening to my coach. Coach Henry's in front of me. Coach Kami's behind me. We're talking about this, that, and the other thing. Keep it simple. Fight's going great. Fight's going just, you know, fine. I mean, at this point, the best grappler on the planet took my back, wasn't able to finish me. And even better, I reversed him, did damage, beat him up a little bit, was winning the striking battle on the feet. So, I mean, the fight was going great. So it's, you know, at that point, you're just, you know,
because if you end up winning that fight, no one's even talking about the first round. Like you should have stood him up. This is obviously all the hindsight. Like fuck the way you want to wake up from a dream and be like, hey, is it going to get to be redone? Yeah, exactly. But in the second round, man, because he barely caught you. Yeah, and is it like the lights get fuzzy for a second, and it was such a quick turnaround that you're just like, I just gotta quickly get back, like you said, and get back on this autopilot before because you almost get fucking out, and he just catches you with that left hand to end it. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, you know, it's all fuzzy, you know, more than anything. But I mean, I remember getting hit. I mean, and I can also go back and watch the replay. So then when you watch the replay and then you try to close your eyes and think, okay, what did I actually see in the fight? You know, you get clipped and then you're just moving, you're evading, you're trying to, you go into survival mode. Cause I mean, there's the moments in the fight where you go into survival mode and you survive, and then you go into survival mode and you don't survive. Like this last one, I didn't, obviously, but I've been in those positions before where you got to go from, you're either extreme offense or your defense or your survival mode. In this particular fight, I went, you know, kind of survival mode. You're fuzzy. You don't know which way is up. Your equilibrium's off, and you just, you know, you're there, but you're not really there. And then before you know it, he runs away, and you're like, dang, fight's over, huh?
Yeah, you're like,
the ref's right here. And you're like, well, I could argue with this stoppage, but I probably shouldn't argue with this stoppage because this guy knows what he's doing, and I don't want to make an idiot out of myself, you know? Because we've all been there before too, or we all have as fans have been like, why is he contesting that stoppage? He was A, getting beat up, or B, he tapped. And I mean, there's been fights where guys have tapped out completely. The guy gets up and runs away, and then the guy's like, why'd you stop the fight? And you're like, dude, you tapped. Do you not remember tapping? You were obviously out, you know? So that's the hard part too, is And I actually do. I'm blessed that I actually got to get on the mic after the fight and Joe came over, because sometimes Joe doesn't do that, and sometimes they don't interview the guy who lost, especially after a TKO or something like that. Because there's been guys who are like mumbling and zumbling, or like, you know, they're still out and they don't really remember what they're saying, or they're talking incoherently, and that's not good for the sport. That's not good for like Joe has like gone back on his podcast on a Monday after a Saturday fight. Like, yeah, man, I shouldn't have interviewed that guy. That was my bad. I should have just cut it. And they said, in my ear, they said, interview him. I just knew he was messed up. He stumbled over me. I shouldn't have done that. Cause that's just, not only is it a tough spot, the guy just got his hopes and dreams and heart ripped out, but maybe he's not there coherently. But for me, I was able to get on the mic and I said my piece, and shout out to, Oliveira. No free shouts,
hey,
but
no free shouts,
he beat me. He's the world champ, hat tip to him and let people know I'll be back. And it's all part of it.
I hope you guys like this clip. If you want to continue to be for the boys, you need to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with a friend, and check out our playlist. We have all the links right here on the screen. As always, biggest of hugs and tiniest of kisses. Also, go check out the full episodes, but always for the boys.